Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Throwing jabs, always full send. Here we go again. Jared, Joe, and Jay's Clovercrest, top three corner man, punching in with a puncher's chance. We find a way to win. The main event, locked it in every Saturday at 10. The overhand is out of hand when it comes to fisticuffs. Slide a hand on the undercard, you'll never see the punch. Uppercut, got you missing weight, feet are stepping late. Keep your guard up, feeling faint from a feint. Take a stand and eight, then retaliate. Put up your duke, stick and move, bob and weave. Don't lose hope against the ropes, there's always an escape. Never stay down. One more round, bells ringing, counter punch with your chin tucked and go down swinging. We bringing crosses with no worship, hooks with no verses, combinations with no locks. When you feel the flurry, it's curtains. From scrub scraps to fight stats, relax if you want the facts, cause the best combat podcast is throwing jabs.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Throwing Jabs Combat Sports Podcast. I'm Big J, joined by Joe White and Jared Jones. And we have actual fights to talk about this week. Unlike last week, I wasn't here, but it was great. Will Smith versus Chris Rock. That was great, guys. But
Had to be done.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. But all right, and while we do have real fights to talk about, we also are going to wrap up our tournament. And let's start off with that. Let's just kick it. Let's go right off the rip. Sugar Ray, the battle of the Sugar Rays. Sugar Ray Robinson versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Which Sugar Ray will succeed? I think it's pretty easy here.
I don't think it's easy. I don't think that would be fair to say either way. I will say this. Look, Sugar Ray Leonard, when titles crossed 5 divisions, welterweight and middleweight, we talked about obviously the Four Kings, and he was the dominator of that group. That said, Sugar Ray Robinson is the greatest pound for pound fighter, period. I think most people think that and would agree with that. But in this case, this is definitely about as close a challenge as I think you could get between two guys with the same first name, unless Mark McGrath was involved.
I love it.
I would say that when it's over, abracadabra, Sugar Ray Robinson, by decision, shut the door, baby. Don't say a word. There's 4 Sugar Ray references if you were scoring at home.
That's lovely.
Oh, boy.
All right, so Sugar Ray Robinson advancing. We'll get to him even more later. But now, moving on. Joe Louis, Roberto Duran. This is a fun one. Jared, who you going with?
I'll take just the boxing skill of Joe Louis. I think as gritty as Duran was, it's a pound for pound list, and I'm taking the heavyweight. I like Joe Louis as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. If you make me make a top 5 list, Joe Louis is on it. I'm not sure you can say the same for Duran in his weight class, so I'm taking Louis.
Yeah, I think this one, it's a little easier than the last one. Roberto Duran certainly was a great fighter, but I think Joe Louis, for a litany of reasons, and again, talking pound for pound, this guy had it all. I'm going to say Joe Louis.
All right. I mean, it's tough going heavyweight with pound for pound. I mean, it is always rough. But I think if boxing wise, I think we have some great. I mean, we'll talk about Muhammad Ali as well, but also, yeah, I'll go Joe Louis as well. I mean, he's moving on regardless of what I say because he used to. So, yeah, I mean, but Roberto Duran's also a beast. I mean, there's no wrong answer here in any of this. But all right, so Joe Louis. Now, Jack Johnson versus Bernard Hopkins. Who?
Is this me first?
Yeah, Joe, I got you.
Well, I got to tell you, man. Like I dig Jack Johnson, but I got to tell you, one of my favorite fighters, and I think one of the best I've ever seen, was Bernard Hopkins. And I've seen a lot more Bernard Hopkins fights than I have Jack Johnson. And I have to think, pound for pound, if these two guys were duking it out today, I'm taking Bernie, baby.
And here I thought I'd be on my own. This is one of those Olympic times arguments, or heights, or distances, or anything, any metric at the Olympics. Go back 100 years and track it, and you'll see a progression of human being and evolution and stuff. That they just kind of get better along the way. I think if these guys are the same size and fight as who they were in their primes, given all the advancements, I think B-Hop embarrasses Jack Johnson. All things considered. Now, if we're not using that timeline and we're saying, well, at the time, so we're giving that bend, it's close, and I'm still taking B-Hop. This guy adapted and adjusted and found a way to win. This is one of my quintessential arguments for fighters, is Chad Dawson versus Bernard Hopkins, because Chad beat B-Hop. Twice, I thought. Was winning when the fight got stopped. B-Hop fell out of the ring. Athletic ability off the charts, but one of those guys adapted and adjusted as he got older and was ready and was able to carry his skill into the later years of his life, and the other one was just had all of these gifts that they honed and worked really hard but never really adapted. B-Hop would find a way to win this fight. That's what I think.
You know, Tony, I'll tell you some people that Jack Johnson beat. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, Sailor Burke, Fireman Jim Flynn, and battling Jim Johnson.
Yeah.
And he also beat a guy named Sandy Ferguson, it looks like about 5 times.
Sam Langford. That's not fair. There's some good fighters on this list, but point made.
Yeah, but I mean it.
They're hard.
Yeah, I'm.
Old Philadelphia Jack O'Brien steps into the ring with Jack Johnson.
Now, to be fair, Jess Willard knocked him out in round 26.
It's quite a different time.
Yeah.
All right.
Roughhouse Wilson? Is that really your name? Okay.
Imagine that.
Fun.
Hey, it's old Roughhouse Wilson.
Oh my goodness. All right. The Cinderella continues, 14 seed, moving on to the Elite Eight. But all right, there we go. Bernard Hopkins moving on. Let's round out Sweet 16 on the boxing side. Muhammad Ali versus Julio Cesar Chavez. I mean, this is rough. I love Julio Cesar Chavez, one of my favorite boxers ever. But I mean, it's easy. Muhammad Ali all day. I mean, anyone got any opposition there?
No.
I actually, I mean, yes, I'm taking Ali. Don't get it twisted. I'm taking Ali here, but I just want to say I'm taking Ali at their primes. I think that's how pound for pound should work. Body of work consistently, beginning to end. Whoo, Chavez put on a show, man. If you're talking about consistency and entire body of work, Julio Cesar Chavez is going to be hard to keep off of any list. But he's up against, this guy shook up the world. I'm taking Ali. All day.
Listen, Chavez and Hector Macho Camacho, one of the great fights ever. But yeah, dude, Muhammad Ali. Again, no disrespect to Julio Cesar Chavez, a great fighter in his own right. But again, you're talking apples and oranges here.
Yeah, there wasn't a Meldrick Taylor. Good point, Tony. There wasn't a Meldrick Taylor on Ali's list, really. Nor he beat. So.
All right. There we go. So our Elite Eight, we'll get to in a little bit, but it's going to be Sugar Ray Robinson versus Joe Louis and Bernard Hopkins versus Muhammad Ali. But before we get to that, let's finish off the Sweet 16 on the MMA side. George St. Pierre versus Daniel Cormier. Jared, who you got?
DC. And this wasn't as tough for me. I just feel like at the height of the game, he was more dominant. There was more time to wonder if DC was the GOAT than there was with GSP. You started thinking maybe, and then no, and then thinking, no, and then oh, no. And DC, aside from John Jones, reigned. I'm taking DC here.
I'm with you, Jared. I've never felt like I've never understood all the hype around St. Pierre. He's a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like people talk about him like he's on a level that I never felt like he was at. So I'm going to take Cormier because even though, pound for pound, Cormier took advantage of every pound on that body.
GSP is the Bart Starr of the UFC.
I like that.
Great player, won the Super Bowls. You stack it right up next to those other, and it's tough to call a guy this good overhyped or yeah, I kind of agree.
What?
You could.
I'm
want to say
flabbergasted. I am flabbergasted.
Like that.
This makes no sense.
Faces. Tito Ortiz. I'm not putting him in the class with those guys. I'm just saying there's a hint of that. Does he really belong here?
Dude, Daniel Cormier, great. I love Daniel Cormier. But, GSP, every single loss he avenged. And then he came back and even went up to middleweight to become a double champ before Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier will always have John Jones just in the back of his mind. He could never beat John Jones.
John Jones was also on steroids when they fought.
Very true. But then even at heavyweight, maybe if he stayed at heavyweight and didn't go down to 205, maybe I think he could have just been even more dominant. But
Tony knows me. I can't get over that Matt Serra loss. I'm sorry. That's always stuck in my crawl, dude. You're going to lose. Lose to Stipe Miocic. You know what I'm saying? That's all right. You can lose to Stipe a couple times. We're still good.
Yeah,
Nah.
lost to Matt Hughes. And like you said, avenged it. Beat BJ Penn.
He also sort of came in and dominated at a time where I feel like he was catching everybody else on the way out, and he was there really before it got really, really good. You know, I mean, don't forget, he stopped fighting in 2013, took 4 years off, and has pretty much been irrelevant since beating Bisbing in 2017. So
he was one of the first real hybrid fighters.
Yes.
One of the first guys that really understood that all of MMA and being well-rounded is going to make you better. So he was not necessarily one of the best guys to do that, but one of the first to understand that you don't really want to come on with just wrestling or just striking. The win over Koscheck with the jab. My goodness, 600 jabs. He looked like Winky Wright beating Felix Trinidad. Just jab, jab, jab. It was disgusting. And that understanding that he had was ahead of his time.
And I mean, yeah, you're right. He's just adaptable everywhere. Even go to the Bisbing fight, he was on his back, but he was still tearing up Bisbing with elbows. It's insane. I mean, Daniel Cormier is moving on. We got an upset. I'm at a loss for words right now. Wow, but okay.
I'm sorry we don't buy into the hype. We just don't buy into the hype. Listen, I'll say this about St. Pierre. He could outwork anybody. That's why half his fights were decisions, dude.
Well,
and when you're the champ, you know, obviously it already tilts in your favor. So I don't know. Just didn't dominate the way I want an all-time great to dominate.
Well,
and then there's that Matt Sarah thing that I can't.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. It sounds like we all have a hang up here. Ours is Matt Sarah, Jace. Yours is John Jones.
Yeah.
Right. That should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah, but
buddy.
George St. Pierre avenged the Matt Sarah loss.
And Daniel Cormier didn't want to have a prison rules fight. Like, he didn't want to go Diggstown to get at John Jones.
He had an opportunity to avenge the John Jones loss, and he got knocked out. Even worse. So,
come on, steroids, buddy.
Sure.
Steroids.
Matt Hughes.
Steroids.
Well, I mean,
steroids overturned. Doesn't? I mean, come on. Let's not play that game. John Jones needed steroids. He was afraid of Cormier.
Then why did John Jones say exactly what was going to happen years before
knock him
the
out
fight?
without the steroids.
You think?
Yes,
Wait. Hold on.
Him out?
Yeah. You think what John Jones is a prophet? Because I mean, dude, Cosman says he's going to knock Burns out in the first round tonight. If he does, was he just saying that and he went out and or did he will it into existence? Which one of those things is it going to be?
Daniel Cormier dips his head when he's running away, and how that sets up for the high kick, which John Jones landed to put Daniel Cormier out in that fight. He talked about it years before their canceled fight. So, all right, but we can talk more about Cormier later. Let's move on and let's talk about John Jones.
Why don't we talk about the spot you put us in last week where we had a ridiculous 116 that made 0 sense. You put us in a tough spot. We didn't want to do that.
No,
so you should feel bad for a minute now, huh?
Listen,
How's that feel?
But I explained it. I told you
Bye-bye, George.
These guys still have their they still have a legacy to cement.
GPS, GSP, because you're going home.
Okay, I'll take that. I will take that. I'm surprised you guys didn't pick Usman over GSP.
Recalculating.
But
we have to be practical.
Okay. Sure. All right.
Somebody does.
John Jones, Anderson Silva. We were just talking about John Jones. Joe.
It's going to be Anderson Silva by Sliva. I think it's close. I think you're talking a couple of greats. John Jones, the story's still incomplete. Obviously, whether we ever even see him again, it's going to determine a lot about John Jones on any list. So I'm going to go with the proven
commodity here. I mean, Anderson Silva dominated 16-fight winning streak. Yeah, I think it's going to be Silva. Yeah, he was the greatest. I love John Jones. I still do. I think when I'm one of the few people I know on this show, I'm the only person that still would love to see John Jones get it together. I'm ready to throw that guy another chance if he can get it together. I'd love to see it, but for me today, it's Silva's the better pound for pound guy by smidge.
I'd love to see John Jones. Don't get me wrong, but I mean,
Yeah, but you'd be all right if it was at Bellator, and I'm not, because I care about John Jones.
We just happy if he wasn't on.
No, I've just accepted that it's not going to happen with John Jones. That's
we'll
I'm
see
sick and tired of
Khabib
getting
before
my
we see John
up.
Jones.
You're not wrong, but Jared.
And
John
we're never
Jones,
going to see Khabib.
Oh, when I don't know how good the guy is, I mean, because he stopped fighting or got arrested or flipped out or did steroids or was juicing or peed on somebody or handed his penis to somebody who didn't want it, whatever it is he was doing at the time that I didn't really get to good enough look at him and other people got too good a look at him, Anderson Silva.
Yeah. But yeah, Dan Henderson, Forrest Griffin, Damian Mile, Chael Sonnen, obviously Vitor Belfort, Stephan Bonner, dude, Anderson Silva, John Jones. No disrespect to Gustafsson, no disrespect to Daniel Cormier, no disrespect to anyone else, but I mean, nothing compares to Anderson. All right, now if John Jones can come back and actually do what everyone expects him to, if he can come back, beat Stipe at heavyweight, then beat Ngannou, I think that's the path for him to come back and take. But if he can do that, then yeah, I think he's up there. He might even be number one. But as of right now, nah. But he could also be retired right now. This could be all John Jones. I don't know what's up with John Jones, but
Tony was looking for King Hippo. You got to. I mean, John Jones has the potential. John Jones.
That's exactly what it was.
To be on a list like this, but not the resume.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll give you Jace. Fine. Silva.
I'll also point out that John Jones, last 10 fights or so, with the exception of knocking out Gustafsson, and you take away the no contest to DC, a lot of decisions and a lot of close fights. Taking a lot more damages as he was going, where he looked untouchable early in his career, like he was on another level. As he started to face the top guys, things did get a little more dicey, I will point out, which is another reason I would love to have seen John have it together. Again, this is a good division with some great fighters in there, and I don't know. We could only dream of what could have been if John Jones wasn't such a loser.
You're right.
And I say that with affection.
Yeah, Sanders plays 5 more years. We get some more highlights. It's hard to know what would have happened if he ever had an offensive line. And there's John Jones. John Jones and addiction are like Barry Sanders and the Lions' offensive line. Ended it too early. Just could never get that part together.
Yeah. I mean, you could say the Lions as a franchise. I mean, with Calvin Johnson. But yeah, Anderson Silva, moving on.
More.
This should be interesting. I mean, and the Elite 8 matchup is set. DC versus Anderson Silva, a fight we've seen, but I mean, pound for pound wise. But finishing off the Sweet 16, still got 2 more. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, Ronda Rousey. Jared, I'm interested to see what you got. Hear what you got.
This was the toughest one on the list for me today. I'm taking Mighty Mouse. I think the dominance of Rousey's reign for that short time, it's the opposite of the Chavez argument. There was a pocket of time where she was the Mike Tyson and did it as dominant as anybody since Mike Tyson, for my eyes. Who else got to the top of the game and just stopped everybody? That said, Mighty Mouse did it for a long time, man. Demetrius Johnson was number one in his weight class. Nobody at his size was messing with him for a long time. There wasn't another name there you even wanted to hear. And even the guy that beat him was physically a bigger dude. I'm taking Mighty Mouse. This was a phenomenal fighter. If you never got to see him fight, go watch some highlights. Demetrius Johnson was
the suplex into the armbar says it all about him.
Well, let's not forget the fact that at 35, he's still the number one ranked flyweight in the one promotion. So he's still there and he's still dominating wherever he goes. I love Ronda Rousey. The window was really small. It was really dominant. And when she got in the ring, though, with the two best fighters she'd ever seen, she got beaten pillar to post. You hate to judge a career on two fights, but there weren't a ton more fights to judge it on.
We just did it to GSP.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, for me, like I said, not only is this guy, and we talked about this last week, Joe Rogan thinks Demetrius Johnson is the greatest mixed martial artist he's ever seen. Joe Rogan also thinks that you could take that horse shit, get rid of COVID. So does he know everything? No. But does he know MMA? Yes. I'm going Mighty Mouse.
Well, and it's one of the guys you would want to argue. If you said we're doing a number one pound for pound and you have to make a court case, like you have to really make your argument for that guy, and you're going to be assigned a guy, don't give me John Jones. Don't give me Ronda Rousey. This is one of the names I would be like, all right, yes, I can make a really good argument that this is the greatest mixed martial artist of all times. I'd want a Johnson. I'd want a Silva. You want a guy that you can at least make a great argument for.
Yeah, and
you're gonna poke a lot of holes in the Demetrius Johnson is the greatest, at least small mixed martial artist ever.
Yeah, you all those things are right about Demetrius Johnson. I love him; he's great. But he's moving on. But I had Rousey here. I think just her impact on the sport in general. That's why I'm giving her the edge. I mean, Mighty Mouse, yeah, he has all these accolades and that stuff, but I mean, you can't mention the history of the Mighty Mouse. I think his name will get lost in the history of the UFC. You cannot mention the UFC without mentioning Ronda Rousey.
You're right, and I can't disagree with that, but this isn't a Hall of Fame argument, and we're also not doing the Mount Rushmore of fighters, because your argument would have been compelling in either one of those arguments. However, pound for pound is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And again, with such a small body of work, it's really hard. And she lost to Amanda Nunes. Bad. And like that was it. And that's bye-bye. Go like play wrestling or whatever you're gonna do now. That was the biggest fight of her life. Obviously, after her Buster Douglas moment with Holly Holm, it was like we saw what she was made of. So I don't know. I think when if Rocky would have lost to Apollo Creed in a trilogy, that whole series would have been different.
You'd had to skip to 5.
Imagine if Rocky just kept fighting Apollo Creed and Carl Weathers just out-smooths him and beats him in every fight. And it's like they get to the trilogy. It's like, why are we still doing this, Rocky? You're not. It was a lucky night in 76. You're not that good. You never were. Mickey's been propping you up since that fight. You're not. You're not that good.
Washington nicknamed you the general. Like it
Clubber
has-
Lang comes around. Clubber Lang's like, I'm not even calling out Balboa because he's a bum and I have no interest in the fight. You know what I mean? Like, and then Rocky IV's about Mr. T and Apollo Creed becoming best friends and mentors.
And then
Mr.
Mr.
T
T and Hulk Hogan end up wrestling for the
Yeah. Mr. T and the A-Team end up murdering Ivan Drago before the big fight. I mean, it would have been, they could have done so many cooler things with that.
Yeah.
It all go to waste.
So many great ideas after that first movie. I was like, no, this guy's not going to win.
All right, okay. All right, Mighty Mouse is moving on. Let's see who will face the battle of the Russians. Fedor Emelianenko, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Jared, who you got?
I never saw Nurmagomedov as Russian. He seems to be real patient, takes his time. That was a joke. I'm taking Nurmagomedov. This guy raked everybody. This guy's going to be hard to beat on in any of these conversations for me. Again, it's one of the names you want to be handed. You know, you're like, okay, pound for pound, all-time great. Who'd I get? Conor McGregor, son of a... You know, you want Nurmagomedov to be the Demetrius Johnson. There's guys that you... Anderson Silva, that I would go, yes, okay, I can make that argument. Fedor is also one of those, but I'm taking the undefeated record in Nurmagomedov. Like I say, he never looked for a minute like he wasn't dominating the person he was in the cage with. And one of them was a bear.
Yeah. Dude, the ease and comfortability that Khabib operates on is scary. And we've talked about him switching from the arm bar on Gaethje. I mean, come on, dude. This guy's like on another level. Or when he was fighting who was it? The fight before it's like I can't remember, doesn't matter. He's like, you know, I deserve this. Just the way he could talk.
Oh, Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson. Yeah, thank you, dude. You know I deserve this. And he's just, I mean, dude, that guy was up here and everybody else was here. There wasn't, we always talk about how in some of these divisions there's that 1 and then there's that 2 kind of interchangeable or it's super close. With Khabib, it wasn't even close. Number 2 was closer to number 5 than he was to number 1.
It's funny when you say that. Like, it's just because it doesn't look right. The guy's so utterly dominant. I remember being in the corner once at a scrub scrap, and I said, this guy's posing. $20 says I can kiss his glove. I bet my corner, $20 I could kiss his glove, and he's coming in and he's jabbing, and I'm countering as he's pulling it back. And one time he jabs, and you literally...
It's hilarious. Yeah.
And countered the shot. But when you're that's what that Gaethje thing reminds me of, is just being that far ahead that I can, Little Chris's feet. There are professional boxers that don't move the way Little Chris moved when he and Billy DeCarli are the only two that ever blinded me. Like, I'd stop and I'd swing, and then there would be no person there. Just not a person there anymore. There was a person there. I was fighting them, and now I don't know where they are. Those moments where you see the other fighter like just kind of run away and start trying to just run straight and turn around because they're totally lost. Yeah, and I've lateral movement. You get that done to other people that don't know what's going on. And when you're that far ahead, man, and he was that far ahead of everybody. You're talking about people at the top of the game that he's treating like children. Well, I don't want to beat you like that because your family's here. Like, you're a professional fighter in a cage with another person, and he's going to take you out if he can. And you're thinking, oh, this is his wife and kids. You know what? Let's leave him conscious. Like, that's at the top of the game? And you're fighting? Good God. Yeah, Nurmagomedov all day. He's going to be really hard to get out of this tournament.
I'm going Khabib too, but I will say Fedor's resume beats Khabib's. The names Fedor's beat I mean, and also, I mean, in Pride, beating a lot of people who were juiced up, you know. Wow,
Pound for pound.
I know.
I still think you're thinking about a list of the greatest of all time, and you're not taking into account the sizes of these people.
Joe, they're leaving. I just want to say some nice things about them before they go. You
Oh,
know,
okay. No, do that. I'm sorry.
sending them
Yeah.
off. You know.
I didn't know. We should have talked about that before the show.
The way
You'll
most
just say
people
nice things
say-
about him on the way out, and then I just won't
No,
even
yeah,
comment.
we're gonna talk about Khabib more in a little bit. We're done talking about Fedor right now. I just wanted to say some kind words. Send them off right. But all
I
right.
do love Fedor. He's great.
Party gifts.
Yeah, go back, watch some of those Pride fights. They're wild. But all right, Elite Eight. Let's start off. Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis. Joe, you mentioned it before. Sugar Ray Robinson, number one pound for pound. Do you think is he moving on?
Yeah, I gotta. Again, this is close. Couple of all-time greats, but they literally invented the term pound for pound because of Sugar Ray Robinson. They did not do that for Joe Louis. So I will not be extending Joe the courtesy this time. I'm taking Robinson here. Close, but Robinson.
Oh,
Jared.
well, I didn't realize that a whole fistful of this guy's fights would have been considered light heavyweight fights by today's standards. He outweighed most of these guys by 5, 10, 15 pounds. Well, huh. Learning new stuff every day. As a Charles Marciano. Sugar Ray Robinson.
That was fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for dropping some names there too. That felt like, he's gonna say something here. That was great.
Walk through Joe Louis's career in slow motion.
I love Joe Louis. I do a lot. I really do. But
List. And you're right to take Robinson.
Yeah, but all right, moving on. Robinson across the board. Who will he face in the final four? Muhammad Ali or Bernard Hopkins? Jared, is the Cinderella going to continue to the final four?
These guys were both adapt, adjust, and find a way to win guys for me. Ali was just better than Hopkins. Taking Ali again here. I think B-Hop is underrated. I think B-Hop is highly underrated and undervalued for what he did. And as an individual, I'm not like some huge fan of the guy. But he was a great, great fighter. His ability to adapt, adjust, and find a way to win was perhaps the best since Ali. So Ali for the win, but those are your parting gifts. Jace decided we're doing parting gifts, so you're welcome, Bia.
Bernard Hopkins, like I said, was one of my favorite fighters. Roy Jones Jr. being another one. Just wanted to mention his name because, again, I think an all-time great. But Muhammad Ali, obviously, is going to get the edge here over B-Hop, as much as I love him. It's Ali.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Ali easy. I mean, I love that B-Hop made it this far. And I think it is very, very deserving. But, yeah, Muhammad Ali all day. So Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali in the final four.
Tony's understand this. Tony's thought a lot about that stuff.
This is
not just today or this week, but like just a lot over the years about this stuff. So
that's a really, really great take.
Wouldn't even have thought about it like that, but yeah, great point.
It's the Ali Tyson argument that I always make when people say Tyson could have got inside, and I'm like, dude, name all the people who beat Tyson and what they have in common: a heavy, hard, long jab. Ali had one of the best of those in the history of boxing. How does Tyson, when he couldn't with Lennox Lewis, when he couldn't with Kevin McBride, How does he get it done with Muhammad Ali? Yeah, great point, Tone. Yeah, and we'll take it. Ali.
All right. But all right, let's wrap up the Elite Eight MMA side. Anderson Silva versus Daniel Cormier, a fight we saw play out in the octagon, but both at their pound for pound prime. Joe, who you got?
Anderson Silva. I think when you look at the body of work, that's a joke because I love that Cormier's a little chubster, but yeah, I think Anderson Silva, just a dominator. I hate the way his career ended; it was so ugly, but that's the nature of the sport. So yeah, I'll give the edge here to Silva over Cormier, who I do like and respect a ton. But yeah, Silva, the Spider.
Yeah, I'm taking Silva too. Longevity, body of work. Yeah, absolutely. This is Anderson Silva. Cormier is one of the guys you could make the argument for, but not one of the names I want. And Silva's one of the names I want. Silva here.
And I'm willing to overlook all the Chris Weidman stuff.
Yeah,
I know it's not fair.
Craziest thing is some of the most insane things I've ever seen in the octagon happened when Silva fought Weidman, and then Weidman fought Hall, and then Hall fight Silva, and it was like you had this little round robin, just insane things that don't happen in every fight.
No, but I mean, I didn't even have Daniel Cormier here, so I'm going with Silva as well. But DC,
Smart.
Great. I just if it just weren't for John Jones, I mean him being the first, he goes to heavyweight, and not only that, he's the first to defend a title while holding two titles against Derek Lewis. That's a cool little stat for the history books. But I mean, you want to talk about stats and history books? Anderson Silva all day, baby, for as far as MMA and the UFC goes. But
all right, cool. Where are we now? So where are we in the rankings? Where are we at? We in the final four?
We're wrapping up the Elite Eight with this. Anderson Silva's moving on to the final four. Who will meet him there? Khabib.
Yep.
Or Mighty Mouse Joe? Khabib.
Again, I talked about how much I liked the Mighty Mouse, and I still think he's still going at it. But again, pound for pound, Khabib. It's nobody better. Nobody dominates like this guy does. And here's the thing about Khabib. Dude, if he had dropped weight and gone to like 125, he would have dominated there. And if he ever does come back, and let's say he pops back up at welterweight or light heavyweight, I'm pretty sure he'll dominate there as well, because nobody understands the game better than this guy, and nobody has the fluid move. I mean, I think when you're wrestling bears as a child, you got to understand and understand leverage, right? Like you learn a lot growing up that way.
Wrestling, you learn a lot wrestling bears.
But also, he was training with Kane, DC, Luke Rockhold. He was training with big guys too.
Yeah,
so, I mean, and kicking their asses, yeah. So
this is the toughest one so far. I will say this is the first time I felt like I had two Mount Rushmore type guys in this, but Nurmagomedov, the dominance. And it's only the pound for pound thing that makes me think maybe Mighty Mouse. Good fight. Nurmagomedov is the prototype. He is the next step. He is the GSP back then of right now. The guy that's transitioned into something else. We're evolving, and Nurmagomedov is evidence.
Yeah, I mean, for this also, I mean, resume. I mean, Demetrius. Yeah. You got Cejudo while he was very young. He came back and beat you. Joseph Benavidez, all right. Dominic Cruz was on there. But I mean, Khabib, I mean, Connor, even though, I mean, Connor's kind of disgraced himself now. But I mean, even Connor, Gaethje, I mean, and just dismantling anyone. Yeah, his style transcends, like you were saying, Joe, transcends his weight. I mean, he just has that raw strength, that wrestling strength, and just his ability to just control another person is just insane. And I mean, training with Kane, Daniel Cormier, these big guys. I mean, and throwing them around. Yeah, Khabib's moving on. So, Khabib, Anderson Silva, Final Four. Let's get into the Final Four. But we'll start off with the boxing side. Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali. Jared, who you got?
I think many, and I hate to say this because this is among the greatest fighters of all time, but many of Muhammad Ali's accolades and memories, and the reason that we remember him the way we do is the things that he did outside of the ring. Bert Sugar said if we realized there was life outside of us and we had to send someone, we don't know if they're friends or foes, we don't know if they can communicate well, we want to send someone gentle and that can speak well, but soft and not aggressive, but will whoop somebody's ass if they need to, right? If we got to send a representative as a human being to go meet that alien race, that he would want that person to be Muhammad Ali. And it's like one of the greatest compliments I think I've ever heard. That said, you don't fight outside the ring. I'm taking Sugar Ray Robinson here, and it's heartbreaking to say out loud.
Well, I'm glad you did all the dirty work there. I'm glad you did all that. Yeah, I'm gonna
get to the point. Khabib and Mighty Mouse, and then this one, it's getting much harder.
The idea the term was invented to explain this guy and how this guy would destroy everyone he fought tells you all you need to know, even about the term pound per pound. Also, he invented the term entourage. I don't know if you guys know that or not. Sugar Ray had like his boys used to roll with him. And that was not a thing until he did that. So you're welcome twice over. Yeah, I'm going to take Sugar Ray Robinson in a slim win over Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, this is just like how I was talking about the Demetrius Johnson Ronda Rousey matchup. Impact versus just ability and pound for pound. Muhammad Ali impact not just on the sport but on really the world was great, and I mean a lot of people would. I mean everyone knows who Muhammad Ali was, but Sugar Ray Robinson just pound for pound the greatest. So who will he face in the championship? Khabib or Anderson Silva? Jared?
It sucks knowing where Silva's ceiling is. This reminds me of trying to bet a crossroads fight where it's an up-and-coming undefeated guy, but this is his best opposition so far. So we don't know what his ceiling is. We saw Silva's ceiling, I think. And I mean, he just outclassed an elite boxer in a boxing ring. This guy is one of the greatest, like, just fighters in general. Phenomenal. Anderson Silva. And those are parting gifts. Because the other guy raked everybody, and we don't know what his ceiling is.
Yeah. Again, I love Anderson Silva, and prime Anderson Silva is definitely one of the greatest of all time. But again, knowing what we know about Khabib, but I'm glad that we know about the sparring with the big guys. because I think it tells you a lot. And like you were saying before, Jace, again, dude, just the way this guy moves, the way he leverages his weight, it's the reason he's able to dominate people. It's the reason he's able to make people like Conor McGregor look like an idiot when they're in the ring with him.
He does a pretty good job of that on his own, though. I mean,
that is fair, but again, you could see Khabib. I mean, Khabib kept that fight going so he could inflict more damage on Conor and talk crap to him. That's what a great champion he is. That's what dude. I mean, imagine, right? You don't want to be in a cage with that guy, with Conor McGregor. I mean, that left is lethal. Khabib didn't think twice about it. Didn't care. He kept that fight going for longer so he could beat McGregor's ass for longer, humiliate him, and talk to him the whole time.
It's video game stuff.
That's video game stuff, dude. He is just on another level, and not for nothing. When Silva got cute in the ring, how'd that turn out for him? Ask Chris Weidman.
Very, very true.
If you're going to be in the ring and you're going to fool around, you got to do it like Khabib. You still got to be serious.
Yeah, but
I love Sander. Let's talk now. You want to talk now? We talk.
Yeah. And I mean, he wasn't even tired after whooping up on Conor. He had to hopped the cage and went after one of Conor's boys too. But yeah, it could be just built different. I mean, Anderson Silva got all the accolades and that stuff, and I mean, like I said, great as far as the history books go, but pound for pound, and just there. I don't think there will ever be another Khabib. I mean, a lot of people talking about Makhachev and Chimaev, but I don't think there could be another Khabib. But
they're good, but yeah, I mean, you know what those two guys lack is his super calm, cool demeanor. I mean, I don't think anybody has that. I don't think anybody has that. I don't think you either can do that or you can't, and I don't think most other people can.
It's the way you talk about Roy, Joe. It's the way you talk about Roy Jones. It's the way I've talked about Loma before, that he's doing things to people in there that you would do to a little kid, or like you're just on a completely different level. Silva and Forrest Griffin comes to mind. You don't get that at the top of the game too often, where one of them is just, you get, well, not that Forrest was like the number 2 guy, the one we wanted to see, but at the same time, you're talking about a fight for a title in the biggest promotion. You don't really see him outclassed the way Nurmagomedov was able to do it every single time, like the teacher playing dodgeball with the kids. Like, it doesn't look right. Shaq's high school highlights. Watch those. That's what.
Oh yeah.
Well, dude. I mean, literally since Nurmagomedov fought that bear, it's rare to have even seen anyone get the upper hand on him. Period. Ever at any point at any fight in his career. You can't say that about anybody else. Like, this guy dominated every minute of every round of every fight he was in against, it didn't matter who. And I think that speaks, especially knowing the nature of MMA. Everybody's got a loss or two. It's okay. Not this guy.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, this guy, and I know he didn't fight Tony Ferguson. He wanted to, and I'm certain he would have destroyed Ferguson before Gaethje did, and it all fell apart. But, yeah, this guy is serious. This is like the video game. You juiced him up to 100. He's breaking tackles, Jace. He can, you know what I mean? You could he's your running back. You throw the option and he throws like an 85-yard bomb down the line. Khabib just did it all. He was just so good. And again, because of the wrestling and the takedowns, dude, how many times did he get to tag somebody? Good. Right? I mean, he was in your head, he was talking, but still always dominant. And at the end of the fight, still the classiest person and one of the classiest champions You don't find guys that are super humble like that. This guy's like a robot. He goes out and he takes care of business. He dominated every second of every match he was ever in. I don't think you could be any better than that.
Very, very true. All right. Let's get into this now. The sports emerge. Who is the number one pound for pound combat sports athlete of all time?
So wait, how are these guys fighting then? What is the method of fighting now that we've crossed over? Does Robinson wear boxing gloves? Is Khabib wearing boxing gloves? I need to understand how to distribute this weight.
Old school UFC, you can wear one boxing glove if you want. You can wear two. Whatever. I don't know, but I mean, pound for pound wise, Joe, who you got?
Well, I hate to say this, but I still think Khabib Nurmagomedov. I just think he finds a way to get it done. I just, again, dude, I've never seen anyone get the upper hand on Khabib. Would it be Sugar Ray Robinson? Nah, maybe. Maybe. It wasn't Dustin Poirier. It wasn't Conor McGregor.
I had a friend, Billy Allard. You think you could beat me in a fight? He was about 5'8", 195, Tiger Claw training and did all the other martial arts and all this. And I'm like, where are you fighting? Phone booth or a football field? Because I wouldn't last a couple, 10, 15 seconds in a phone booth with you. But if you had to fight me on a football field, you're in trouble. Yeah, these two friends, I feel the same way here. Yeah, I need more information. They fight on a football field with boxing gloves and can't do takedowns. Give me Sugar Ray all day. They're in a cage with MMA rules. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Either way, it's like I like this being the end of the game. And we get one for MMA and one for boxing. Because there's so many other intangibles you would have to put together. And all of that said, one of these guys never lost, and we don't know their ceiling. If you force my hand, it's Khabib.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. The never lost. I mean, that's great. It's not as great as it really is because of guys like Floyd Mayweather. But, I mean, Khabib's different. He's the reason why it is great. Dominance, like you can argue maybe McGregor took one round off him, but that's still a stretch. Just dominance. And, I mean, even I keep bringing up him in training. Guys like DC, Kane, and Luke Rockhold, they say Khabib has never even lost a round in training. So, like, just that dominance at that level to continue. And, I mean, the only real knock maybe for the pound-for-pound stuff is how he struggled to make weight in the beginning of his career. But then he figured it out. He figured it out and continued to succeed. So, I think, yeah, as far as Khabib goes, Sugar Ray Robinson's great, but I mean, Khabib is just different. Just different. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, it is. It's hard because, I mean, again, these guys fought at a similar weight or at least fought at similar weights during their career. So, again, you're putting Sugar Ray Robinson in a tough spot here because we don't know if Sugar Ray can wrestle at all or what he might do.
Years of his career, and he fought as many times as could be,
it's
hard to quantify, as Tony was saying.
Yeah, but shouldn't the pound for pound wise talk about pound for pound? But
dude, again, if these two were standing in a ring squaring off just in boxing gloves, Sugar Ray Robinson would, I think, beat Nurmagomedov pillar to post. It wouldn't even be close. If it was like Khabib, you got to stand up and fight for 12 rounds with Sugar Ray. He's getting murdered. It wouldn't be close.
Or 45 or whatever.
Yeah. Again, if you're throwing them in an octagon, I don't think Sugar Ray has a chance against Khabib because nobody else did. So, I think this
Khabib lasts longer in a boxing ring than Sugar Ray does in an octagon.
fair. Yeah, in an octagon, I say Sugar Ray Robinson would get tapped out in about 45 seconds or less. In a boxing match, Khabib could go definitely 3 or 4 rounds before Sugar Ray puts him to sleep with the fists.
Yeah.
Street fight, Khabib, because he would eat him in street fight.
Yeah. But Khabib.
The ring, the corner, the same.
Khabib with the big win. But all right. Damn, that's it for the tournament. That was fun. But and then I got more fun stuff for the Who You Got in the plan. So make sure we stay tuned for that. But we'll all be here. But now we got to talk about the fights coming up tonight. Big UFC pay-per-view. But first, let's take a break and hear from one of our sponsors.
Come on out for a day of fun to the Cove Kids Classic presented by Clarity. Friday, May 6, 2022 at Lyman Orchards Golf Club to benefit the Cove Center for Grieving Children. Partnership opportunities are available. All proceeds from the Cove Kids Classic support the Cove's free programs. Please consider partnering with us to continue to support grieving children and teens in 2022 and beyond. For more information or questions, call Allison Gamber at 203-634-0500 or email allison@covect.org. The Cove Kids Classic takes place Friday, May 6th at Lyman Orchards Golf Club. Registration begins at 8 a.m. Shotgun start at 9 a.m. on the player course. Coming up Saturday night at UFC 273, it's a bantamweight title rematch between Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling and Peter No Mercy Yan. Let's break it down. Aljamain Sterling is 32 years old. He's 5'7" with a 71-inch reach and a record of 20-3 with 2 knockouts and 8 submissions. From Uniondale, New York, he started wrestling in high school, going on to become a 2-time NCAA Division III All-American with a record of 87-27. While attending SUNY Cortland, teammate John Jones invited him to the gym to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. After graduation, he compiled an amateur record of 6-1 before turning pro in April of 2011 with a unanimous decision. He quickly went 8-0, winning the Cage Fury Championships bantamweight title and defended it 3 times before signing with the UFC, making his promotional debut in 2014 with a decision over Cody Gibson. He followed it up with a 3rd-round knockout of Hugo Vienna and had submissions over Takaya Muzgaki and Johnny Eduardo. After suffering a pair of decision losses to Brian Caraway and Rafael Asuncao, he bounced back 3 months later, defeating Augusto Mendez. But after winning a unanimous decision over Renan Barraro, he was brutally knocked out cold by a knee from Marlon Moraes. He returned 4 months later with a decision over Brett Johns and a Sulov stretch submission over Cody Stamann. Decisions over Jamie Rivera and Pedro Munoz saw a match with Corey Sandhagen in a title eliminator, which he won in impressive fashion, blitzing the Sandman and taking his back just 1 minute into the fight and route a first-round rear naked choke submission. On March 6, 2021, he took on reigning bantamweight champion Peter Yan, initially coming out to a fast start until a heavy knockdown and multiple takedowns caused the fight's momentum to gradually shift in the champion's direction until round 4, when he was knocked out cold with an illegal knee, thus making him the first fighter in UFC history to win a world title by disqualification. The best grappler in the division, Sterling mixes elite-level wrestling with slick striking and a dynamic come-forward style designed to overwhelm his opponents. Peter Yan is 29 years old. He's 5'7" with a 67-inch reach and a record of 16-2 with 7 knockouts. From Yekaterinburg, Russia, he began training in Taekwondo in 6th grade and eventually earned a Master of Sport in Boxing before graduating from the Siberian Federal University with a degree in physical culture. He made his MMA debut in December of 2014 with a 3rd-round knockout and signed with Absolute Championship Berkut, going 7-1 before becoming the bantamweight champion with a unanimous decision over Magomed Magomedov. The following year, he made his UFC debut, knocking out Turto Ishiara with a right cross.
In December of 2018, he put on a dominant performance against Douglas Silva de Andrade, battering him throughout the first round until the Brazilian's corner stopped the fight. He followed that up with impressive wins over John Dodson and Jimmy Rivera, and then in December of 2019 took on Uriah Faber, giving him a hellacious beating before knocking him out with a devastating head kick in round 3. 7 months later, he fought former featherweight champion Jose Aldo for the recently vacated bantamweight title in a back-and-forth slugfest. The two friends and former sparring partners put on a classic, with Aldo focusing on Jan's legs and body, while Jan slowly broke down Aldo with continuous pressure, eventually getting the former champion to the ground and stopping him with a prolonged ground and pound. On March 6, 2021, he defended his belt against number 1 contender Aljamain Sterling, gradually wearing him down and dropping him with a punch, as well as scoring several takedowns before knocking him out with an illegal knee, losing his title by disqualification. On October 30th, 2021, he faced the always dangerous Corey Sandhagen for the interim bantamweight title, steadily breaking his opponent with a vicious body assault and dropping the Sandman in the third round with a powerful spinning back fist en route to a wide unanimous decision. A relentless pressure fighter, Jan is exceptionally good at controlling the center of the octagon and uses his feints to get his opponents to overextend themselves as he lands his counter at a rate of nearly 6 per minute. Will Aljo's dynamic grappling skills and reach advantage give him the edge he needs to legitimize his reign? Or will No Mercy's unrelenting pressure and killer instinct prove to be too much as both men try to settle the score in one of the most heated rivalries in UFC history? Tune in Saturday night to UFC 273 and let's find out.
All right. Aljo versus Peter Yan. Can Peter Yan redeem that illegal knee finish? Joe, who you got?
I think Peter Yan is going to destroy Aljamain Sterling, who has sort of moved into the delusional state that Deontay Wilder was living in after he lost. And I'm concerned about, I mean, look, Sterling's a great fighter and he's a great athlete, and this guy's always in a fight, but their first matchup, he was tentative. Obviously, Jan made a huge mistake with that knee, but Aljo didn't want to get off the ground. He wanted to stay on the ground, and Jan's not going to do that. Jan's going to, I think Jan's going to really go for, and he's going to try to knock him out. He's going to try to inflict pain and knock him out. And I think that's where Sterling could find an opening, is if Jan is like hell bent on really bringing the heat and coming right at him. He could open himself up to getting knocked out, but I think Jan's gonna get in there and he's angry, and this guy hasn't. Yeah, Sander, he's seeing red. You just gotta hope that sometimes seeing red's not a great thing, though, Jared. Right? I still want to have a clear mind when I'm in there, so I think as long as he's able to keep the cool that he always keeps, because Peter Yan's another cool character, in the vein of Khabib. Yeah, I see this being a dominant Yan performance and getting that belt back.
Oh, me too. He's super focused. One's the new champion, one is old, but one's sterling silver and the other's gold. Boring girls make my Peter Yan. I think we'll see a repeat of everything we saw before the knee, and Jan's going to take through this guy. He understands the rules this time and probably stops it. And Sterling could take a beating, so I'd expect this to be fight of the night type performance and Jan to be a buzzsaw.
Yeah, I'm with you guys as far as Jan goes. I will say, Joe and I were talking a little bit about betting before the show. I do think Sterling, I'm just going to trust his camp with Roberto Longo and Matt Serra, and just his length, and especially at that weight. I think out of all the underdogs, I think this is the best opportunity for an upset on this UFC pay-per-view. as far as the big fights go. So I do see an avenue where Sterling can win if he pulls out like a submission or if he can just use that length. I like Sterling's ground game, but I do expect Peter Yan. I mean, Peter Yan is at the top of the pound for pound right now, and in the UFC, he's a beast. I expect him to win, but I do think you can't count Sterling out completely. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, I got Yan all day. But it should be a fun one. Great co-main event. It really sucks that it was canceled or a couple months ago when Peter Yan had to get the interim after beating Sandhagen, but it eventually is playing out, and hopefully Yan can get his title back. I mean, Yan should get his title back. But all right, now let's move on to the main event. And also, big shout out to Tony for writing and researching all these tales of the tape. But let's get into the main event. Alexander Volkanovski against the Korean Zombie. Let's go.
Featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski headlines UFC 273 opposite the Korean Zombie Chan Sung Jung Saturday night in Jacksonville, Florida. Let's break it down. Chan Sung Jung is 35 years old. He's 5'9" with a 72-inch reach and a record of 17-6 with 6 knockouts and 8 submissions. From Pohang, South Korea, he began training in martial arts as a teenager due to his constant bullying when his family moved from countryside to the city. After high school, he joined the Korean Navy, where he took up Taekwondo and began a kickboxing career, amassing a record of 15-6 with 11 knockouts before switching to MMA, winning his professional debut with a reverse armbar in June of 2007. That same year, he won a Pancras tournament, winning the first fight via rear naked choke and the second with a first-round knockout. The following year, he entered another tournament, winning 3 fights in one night. In 2010, he lost 2 in a row, a split decision to Leonard Garcia and a second-round knockout to George Roop by a vicious head kick. He bounced back with a second-round submission of Garcia in his UFC debut, and in his first headliner, submitted Dustin Poirier with a Darce choke. In 2013, he challenged for the featherweight title, getting stopped in the 4th round by Jose Aldo. After the fight, Jung was required to fulfill another 2-year stint in the Korean military and returned 3 years later, knocking out Dennis Bermudez in the first round with a devastating counter uppercut. The next year, he lost to Yair Rodriguez when, leading on the scorecards, he rushed in and was knocked out cold by a brutal counter elbow with 1 second left on the clock. In 2019, he engaged in his 5th and 6th headlining events, knocking out both Renato Moncoyo and Frankie Edgar in the first round. In October of 2020, he took on Brian Ortega. However, despite being a heavy favorite, he was dominated for all 5 rounds, getting dropped twice and losing 50-45 on all 3 scorecards. On June 19, 2021, he defeated Dan Ige by unanimous decision, mixing in slick striking with an excellent grappling game and a demonstration of how well-rounded he's become. A relentless pressure fighter, the Korean Zombie got his nickname from his uncanny ability to absorb massive amounts of damage and continue to move forward. His proficiency in Taekwondo, Judo, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu makes him dangerous on the ground, and he possesses both a limitless gas tank and one-punch knockout power. Alexander Volkanovski is 33 years old. He's 5'6" with a 71-inch reach and a record of 23-1 with 11 knockouts and 3 submissions. From New South Wales, Australia, Volkanovski took up Greco-Roman wrestling at a young age, going on to win a national title at the age of 12, though he gave up the sport in his teens to pursue a career in rugby. After a successful run of the semi-pro leagues, where he weighed up to 214 pounds, he decided at the age of 23 to take up MMA, going 4-0 as an amateur in the middleweight division before turning pro in May of 2012 with a unanimous decision over Gerhard Voigt. He won his next 2 by TKO in the welterweight division before getting stopped by a head kick and ground and pound in his 4th fight. He won his next 10 with 9 stoppages before making his UFC debut in November of 2016 with a second-round knockout of Yusuke Kusoya. 7 months later, he dropped down to the featherweight division, defeating Mizuto Hirota, and followed that up with decisions over Shane Young and Darren Elkins, as well as a brutal TKO over Jamie Kennedy. On December 29, 2018, he took part in an exciting and wild brawl with Chad Mendes, getting taken down multiple times before catching Mendes with a left to the body and a right to the head to score a second-round knockout and continue his rise to the top with an impressive and dominant victory over former champion Jose Aldo. In December of 2019, he took on Max Holloway for the featherweight title, dethroning the champion with a highly tactical game plan that consisted of relentlessly attacking his lead leg to limit the offense while landing counters inside the pocket. 7 months later, he made his first title defense with a split decision in the rematch, and on September 25th, 2021, he took on the extremely dangerous and durable Brian Ortega, surviving several submission attempts and overwhelming T-City with damaging blows, outlanding him 214-88 en route to a unanimous decision in an all-time classic. Can the Korean Zombie use his relentless pressure and remarkable durability to frustrate and overwhelm Volkanovski? Or will Alexander the Great put on another tactical and dominant performance as he continues to solidify his position among the top pound-for-pound fighters in the sport? Tune in Saturday night to UFC 273, and let's find out.
All right. Alexander Volkanovski, Chan Sung-jung, the Korean Zombie. Yep, the worst title main event matchup ever. I mean, that's what happens when Volkanovski just takes care of business. I mean, he's already handled Holloway. He's already handled Ortega. He's already handled everyone. So why not throw Korean Zombie all up in there? So, Joe?
The Korean Zombie, had he gotten a chance to fight for this title 10 years ago, it totally would have been worth it. Chen Sung-jung is 8-6 in his last 14 fights.
Ooh.
It is a spotty record at best. He has barely been a 500 fighter. That said, dude, this guy can take a beating. This guy can dish it out. He, as we were just saying in the tail of the tape, I mean, he's become a more well-rounded fighter. This is maybe the best version of him that we've seen in a few years. That said, he's not even close to being in the same league as Alexander Volkanovski. And over the course of 5 rounds, I believe that there is literally a 0% chance of the Korean Zombie. And I love the guy. He's one of my favorites. I really do love him. I think this is going to be more like the Ortega fight where, for both of them, where Ortega beat him up pretty good. I think Volkanovski's going to do the same thing here. He's going to put the whoopings on this guy. I think it's going to end up being a pretty fun main event because you're going to see Volkanovski just for 5 rounds beating the bejesus out of the Korean Zombie, and we'll see how zombie-like he can be. It'll be fun.
Throwing jabs when news breaks, we fix it. According to, I'm on Fantasy Pros here, Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
Just died in a car accident in South Florida.
Yeah, that's rough.
Wow.
I actually think it's worse than a car accident. It's a car. I think he got hit by a car in the sense of car accident. If I understand that, I saw that car accident. Now I'm seeing the details. It looks more like that's terrible. What a terrible way to die.
25.
I've always liked that guy. I tell you, I was really hoping he was going to bounce back with the Steelers and get back on track. I'm really sad by that.
Yeah, that's rough. He would have had opportunities this year. You know, Mitch Trubisky is going to give you opportunities to take his spot. So,
well, and as far as the fight goes, I think Volkanovski is going to do some real kind of Aljamain Sterling-ish. This guy can take a lot of damage, the Korean Zombie. So Volkanovski is really going to put it on him. And maybe he could pursue his vocal career. I heard he's been working on for a long time. Chan Sung-jung. You know, ever since he was a kid, he's been working on that. And after he gets retired by Volkanovski, American Idol, maybe.
Is that even
American Idol? I didn't.
Oh, I love it.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Volkanovski all day.
Volkanovski fought young, and Chan Sung young. So, you know, if one of them's a singer and the other one's a fighter, I'm taking the fighter in the fight.
Yeah, but yeah, it's I maybe something crazy has to happen for the upset to happen here. But
Again, you would need a very high ring IQ guy in Volkanovski to do something really uncharacteristically stupid to put himself in a spot for Zombie to win the fight. Now, again, it's not this. I mean, we know the kind of knockout. I mean, Jung can knock somebody out. Like, then there's no doubt about it. You find the right opportunity, Jason. It's why I don't love the knockouts. All things considered, this guy could put it on you. It just seems
100%.
like, knowing what Volkanovski brings to the table, you having an opportunity or two in the fight to slip him, you better not miss those two chances, because I don't know that you'll get many more.
Short windows. It's what I always say about Cyril Gahn. Cyril Gahn can be beat. We just saw it. But the windows you have to actually hit him cleanly or to knock him out, they're just so small. And so Justin Gaethje is an open window. Put your hand in here. When you touch me, it means you're close enough to hit. Volkanovski's not like that. He slams all those windows shut, and assuming, that once or twice where he's a fraction of a second off, Jung can't put something in there. I mean, I think Volkanovski scrapes this guy.
Yeah.
I don't want minus 800 because it's huge, but Volkanovski for the win.
Yeah. It should be fun, though. I mean, he's called the Korean Zombie for a reason. He takes punishment and just keeps walking forward. So it's going to be a fun fight. Volkanovski has to show out. But, yeah. I will say the co-main event, I'm more excited for that. That should have been the main event. I think the Sterling Yan fight's going to steal the show here. But regardless, fun night of fights. So fun. Let's talk about the fight of the night. What's going to happen? I mean, I do want to mention before this, not tonight, but last night, Triple G returned, knocked out Murata. That would have been my fight of the night. But
this morning, it was a great fight, bro.
Yeah. But all right, Jared, what's your fight of the night?
I think it's going to be a great fight. It's also spoiler coming up. We'll talk about it again in a second. But Sergio Garcia versus Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison's a tough, gritty boxer, and Sergio Garcia is on his Sergio Garcia is on his way up, and this is a good stepping stone for him, and should be a great fight.
All right.
Listen, Gilbert Burns and Kazmat Chimaev, that's going to be, we're hearing all this. Chimaev is saying he's going to put him out in the first round, which I'd love to see that. That would be really cool, but I don't know that that's the guy I want to go crazy in the first round against. I don't know. I want to bull rush this guy. So that could go really well or really poorly. So I'm really excited about that. Because I really want to see, and I think this is the best indicator we're going to see, is if Chimaev is for real, or if it's part hype and part competition. I think tonight you'll see if this guy's really going to make a run at the top of the welterweight division.
Okay, Sergio Garcia has one loss, right? His one loss is to Sebastian the Towering Inferno Fundora. Have you guys seen this guy? 6'6", Sebastian Fundora?
No.
Oh, man. I've got a new fight of the night. I want to change my answer. Erickson Lubin's only loss is to Jermell Charlo. Erickson Lubin is a monster, and he's fighting 6'6". Sebastian Fundora, and he's a minus 165. This is going to be fun. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Take Lubin on the money line. 6'6", Towering Inferno. Sebastian Fundora versus Erickson Lubin. I am so excited. I have Kansas on one of my parlays with this fight. Erickson Lubin over Sebastian Fundoran. It is going to be fun to watch. Video game like.
Yeah. All right.
For that fight.
Another fight. Ryan Garcia is fighting. I think we should mention that just because of all the hype. At least he's getting back into the ring, I guess.
And I don't think this guy is good enough to expose the flaws that I see in Ryan Garcia. A la Tank, there are ways to beat this guy. I don't know if this guy has the pop to do it. It's the windows are too far open, and the chin looks a little suspicious for Ryan Garcia. So you crack open a window too far and stick a suspect chin out, bad things happen. I don't know if this guy can really make that work for him.
Yeah, but for my actual fight of the night, though, Michaela Meyer versus Jennifer Hahn on ESPN Plus. Check that out. Michaela Meyer's a beast.
Take the
one
over.
One of the best female pound-for-pound
she
fighters.
Won't stop Hahn. She's minus 4,500, and she won't stop Hahn. I took the over there.
I think is Mackenzie Dern on the card tonight against Tisha Torres. Yeah, that'll be a cool fight too.
Yeah,
she's plus money too. I have Dern. I think she just barely wins a decision, and Tisha is actually the favorite here. So plus money on Dern.
Interesting. All right, but all right. Speaking of how all this money,
there it is.
Sold on Garcia. Yeah. No one. I don't think anyone sold on Ryan Garcia until he starts fighting real opponents. But all right. I mean, talking about all this money, Jared. How are you gonna make us money with your puncher's chance?
This ends up at plus 150. Gabriel Rosado, Bryant Perella. We already talked about Sergio Garcia. Now, Gabriel Rosado is fighting a guy named Shane Mosley. That name might sound familiar. And it was Rosado who just gave a great fight to, was it Tank? Jamie Mungaya, the favorite of Sander out there. So I like Rosado to bounce back from that loss. Perella at minus 357. You parlay all three of these, you're at plus 150. And I'm also 2 weeks in a row on the puncher's chance, so let's go for 3 here.
Let's go. Let's keep it up. Good stuff, Jared. But all right. That's gonna do it as far as the fights go. So big shout out to Annie Mac Mortgage and Chris Sawyer for sponsoring today's episode, and Cove Kids Classic. Make sure you go check that out. May 6th at Lyman Orchards Golf Course. Right, Joe? Got any other words regarding that?
Other than that, everybody should sign up and go. No, I think that about covers it. May 6th, it's a Friday. A couple of meals happening, lots of great prizes, and just a good time for a good cause. It's for kids who have lost someone. It's a fundraiser so that those kids can talk to somebody for free. Do the right thing. Golf.
Yeah. But,
what else you got to hear?
Wins.
Heck yeah. And also big shout out Clovercrest Media. Make sure you check it out, clovercrestmedia.com, for a bunch of other great sports podcasts. If you're a football fan, Joe and myself, John about the G-Men, basketball posting up. You got Keys to the City covering it all. Anything you got. And, I mean, if you're not a sports fan, true crime podcast, political podcast, conspiracy theory, anything you got, clovercrestmedia.com has you covered. But great fights tonight. Make sure you enjoy them. We're going to end the show like we always do. Jared, brother, hit us with that flurry.
I want to fight Will Smith. I want to fight Will Smith because I've been thinking more about it, and I feel like this is a bully. One of the things that bothers me most about this is people are saying how gangster what he did was. That's thugged out. Oh man, he kept it real for his family. And he hit somebody that wasn't going to hit him back. So open invitation to fight Will Smith still hasn't been answered. And I think it's because he knows I'll hit him back. I'm feeling like if that was The Rock instead of Chris Rock, hey Jada, can't wait for G.I. Jane 2 to come out, that Will Smith would not have done what he did. And that's the difference between me and Will Smith. Because if Chris Rock had said something like that about The Rock's wife, and The Rock had walked up and smacked him, I would still be here on Throwing Jabs podcast inviting The Rock to come and fight, because that's a bully move, and I don't size up my opponents by whether or not they're going to hit me back. And if you need any further motivation, thanks, guys.
Throwing jabs, always full send. Here we go again. Jared, Joe, and Jay's Clovercrest, top three corner man, punching in with a puncher's chance. We find a way to win. The main event, locked it in every Saturday at 10. The overhand is out of hand when it comes to fisticuffs. Slide a hand on the undercard, you'll never see the punch. Uppercut, got you missing weight, feet are stepping late. Keep your guard up, feeling faint from a feint. Take a stand and eight, then retaliate. Put up your duke, stick and move, bob and weave. Don't lose hope against the ropes, there's always an escape. Never stay down. One more round, bells ringing, counter punch with your chin tucked and go down swinging. We bringing crosses with no worship, hooks with no verses, combinations with no locks. When you feel the flurry, it's curtains. From scrub scraps to fight stats, relax if you want the facts, cause the best combat podcast is Throwing Jabs.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting